Hello, I'm Justin Bruner, PennDOT's Asset Management Engineer, and today we're going to talk about using technology to make better decisions. So we've all probably been part of the effort to respond to a media question regarding funding and conditions. Today we're going to talk about using technology to make better decisions and answer tough questions like, how many more bridges can you fix with 50% more funding? We'll review the PennDOT innovation that is AssetFox, discuss how we came to that solution, and how the DOT uses that solution to respond to big picture investment questions. And finally, briefly touch on what key lessons learned, which is that rational investment has its limits. So our challenge resides in the Change Forces section of the ACB portal within the legislation, regulation, and funding area. Recently, we've experienced an external push for more bridge funding. As you're all probably aware, we've had some semi-famous bridge collapses not too long ago, and industry groups are leveraging that for more bridge funding, which leads to media questions like you see here. If your agency gets so much more money, how many bridges will that fix? And that's a seemingly normal question for folks outside the DOT, but for folks within the DOT, we immediately dive into the vastness of the unspecified. Like, what does fix mean? What population of bridges are you talking about? In what time frame? With what flavor of money? And is this in addition to the current tip, or are we replacing the tip, right? So all these questions that we have that we can't actually ask them. And no one in the media really understands those nuances. So being able to look at current policy and quickly forecast investments into the future on an asset-specific level is key. And it's not the first time that someone has asked that question. So a few years ago, we decided to try and solve that problem internally. Our innovation was to support the tip process with as much in-house automation as possible. This would allow us to provide more assistance to the planners by providing recommended lowest lifecycle cost treatments for specific assets and having the added bonus of using that same platform to then forecast future condition and needs. So PennDOT's used all of the core strategies identified in the ACB framework to implement what we now call AssetFox. So AssetFox started out as our bridge asset management system that we refer to internally as BridgeCare. It's based on the open source code and was designed from the ground up to emulate the DOT's business process and semi-automate the planning process. The added benefit of having such tremendous level of detail in this software is it allows us for quick and accurate prediction of overall conditions into the future, therefore creating access to accurate investment comparisons, such as that famous question of what does 50% more funding look like? And after the internal adoption of BridgeCare, we began working parallel on RoadCare, which is based off of the exact same source code and shares many of its attributes. We basically created a different installation and output sheet centered around roads instead of bridges, and we're off and running. Once the two of these were sufficiently off the ground, we then started work on creating the system that sits on top of these, which we call Project Builder. Project Builder consumes the BridgeCare and RoadCare outputs in true motive fashion and creates projects from the list of recommended treatments. We've had tremendous success with the beta version of this product internally and currently are working on the final release for later this summer. And finally, we have Decision Space, which we realized early on is what we needed after recognizing that BridgeCare and RoadCare will only produce results for existing assets. We needed a way to ingest and rank potential new work and include it in the projects Project Builder was creating. So this is the sample output that was designed to answer that question of how many bridges for how many dollars. We found it helpful to show that where we've been through the solid bars, then show where we're likely to go through the transparent bars. This output looks at our current investment strategy, and we can compare that to a change in investment strategy. And this is the output with the increased funding. It's not terrible, right? Note the big change in poor and fair, with the good staying fairly level. I sincerely hope we get that money, right? Because we can show what it's going to do for our overall population. And with that, I think that's it. Thanks for your time.